We are now carrying a new book. The author is Tom Doyle. The book is called Killing Christians, Living the Faith Where It's Not Safe to Believe. Tom Doyle, welcome back to Understanding the Times Radio.
Thank you. Great to be with you, Jan.
You know, Tom, you bring out the historical fact that ISIS was birthed in the same area that the Assyrians carried out similar activities centuries ago, and they were the world's first terrorists. Do you feel there is a connection between these ancient terrorists and the modern-day terrorists known as ISIS or Islamic State? In other words, some principalities and powers still operating in the region?
I absolutely do. I see that around the Middle East. Places that have been treacherous seem to carry that through generations. You look at Gaza, you look at Shechem in the West Bank, which is now a Hamas training ground, and you just go back in their history, and usually it was bad from the start. And definitely we're seeing that in the area where the Assyrians were, the Ninevites, where we know of entire villages, Jan, committing suicide because they heard the Assyrians were on their way. They were that evil. The things that we're seeing again today with this horrific jihadist army, ISIS.
You quickly remind folks that Jesus lovers are hated in dozens of countries around the world. I mean, these days focusing heavily on Middle East and parts of Africa. But, you know, we can't forget China, North Korea, and some of those areas as well.
Oh my gosh, North Korea is probably at the top of the chart.
Yeah.
You know, Jesus said, don't take it personal. They're going to hate you because they hate me. And so, Jan, what this really is, this is a war on Jesus. This is terrorist groups, this is evil regimes wanting to eradicate anything about Jesus from planet Earth. And so there is persecution wherever people name the name of Christ, but we haven't had so many broad pronouncements like we have from ISIS, where they're going to eradicate the Christian presence in the Middle East. But you know, the Ayatollah Khomeini said that in 79, Jan, in Iran, and he said, we will wipe out Christianity, we'll squash it, there'll never be two religions in Iran. Everyone will be Muslim. Well, that didn't work out too good. Operation World, the Encyclopedia Missions, tells us now that Iran is the fastest-growing church per capita in the world. So when you try to wipe us out, it does exactly the reverse.
Yeah.
We spread, we grow, we thrive.
I read an article online. It was by Jim Dennison, and the title of the article is Why is God Allowing So Many Christians to Die? And I think that's a compelling headline and a compelling question. And this author goes on to say Iraq was the home to 1.5 million Christians just 10 years ago. Their number is now under 150,000. If the Islamic State and other terror groups continue their assault against believers, there may soon be no more Christians in Iraq. And then goes on to say, as a result of miracles, more Muslims have come to Christ in the last 15 years than in the previous 15 centuries. And then, Tom Doyle, you ask a question in this article. You say, are you willing to suffer for Jesus? Are you willing to die for Jesus? And then for you as a believer, if you answer yes to the two questions, this is a spiritual game changer. Everything will be different now. You know, I think what I just read here, Tom Doyle, but I fear that Western Christians are underwhelmed by what I've just stated. I said again, underwhelmed.
Yes.
And I'm troubled by that. I'm troubled by that.
Yeah, not at all. And I think what we're trying to do, one of our messages, Jan, and that's one of the reasons for writing Killing Christians, Living the Faith Where It's Not Safe to Believe, is to show what's happening in the Middle East and other areas, North Africa, with the gospel, how they suffer, but the tremendous gains for the body of Christ has gone underground and is spreading rapidly. So on one hand, Americans want the church to grow, but they want it to be in a comfortable way. And unfortunately, persecution and tremendous growth, or harvest, let's call it a harvest, throughout our 2,000 years of church history, they're inseparable twins. Where you see the persecution, you see the great growth. People say, is it coming to America? You know what, Jan? It's already here. We're working with safe houses throughout the United States that are popping up for former Muslims that are coming to faith in Jesus, and they need to get away from their family. Hey, just because there's laws against it here and Sharia law isn't the rule of the land, it's still happening with Muslim converts that are following Jesus. And so, is persecution coming? We're saying it's already here. Wake up and learn these lessons from brothers and sisters on the front lines and what Jesus taught them in the midst of the persecution.